Hey everybody, how's it going today? My name is John and I'm your crypto security advisor. So today I want to talk to you about a interesting topic. So I want to talk about cyber warfare. And so it sounds really cool, really fancy. What is it? So I believe it was beginning of December last year. I did write an article for, it's called Hacker Noon. And so it's a blog that deals specifically with the IT and cybersecurity news. And what I wrote about was cyber warfare. And so this was just all my thoughts up to that point about Russia invading Ukraine and how this new, I guess, how this new world is structured so that everyday people like yourself, myself, we can actually contribute to cyber warfare and cyber self-defense. And I talked about this, and my conclusion essentially was it's a good idea and concept, but when it plays out in practice, it's not a good thing. So I just want to share briefly my article here. And so this is Hacker Noon, and yeah, I wrote this December 1st, 2022. So it's titled Cyber Warfare, Self-Defense, and the Defender's Dilemma. So in this, I essentially talk about why we now live in the age of cyber warfare, and I referenced a good friend of mine's article, Canadian Hackback, a consideration of the Canadian legal framework for private sector active cyber defense. And active cyber defense was defined as any act that would perpetrate, cause escalation, essentially. And so I go through the various cybersecurity domains. So according to the ISC squared, we have the 8 cybersecurity domains here. Everything from security and risk management, security operations, software development security, and identity access management. So you can take a look. I'll link it in the description below as well for you to look at. So I was talking about, okay, what happens, what is cybersecurity defense? What does it look like? And so I go into this, and oftentimes when we look at buying new products, buying a new laptop, those items are insecure by default, and we have to do our own due diligence, turning off unused ports and services, such as Cortana, and making sure that we have up-to-date antivirus or anti-malware programs on our devices. So more onus is on the owner than on the company that produces these products. Going further, we go into cybersecurity offense. So what is a cyber attack? How do you actually conduct a cyber attack? And so oftentimes this is done through phishing emails or very brute force attacks, such as a DDoS attack, where you have bots across the internet or across the world target one specific, let's say, web server, and they bring it down because of all of the traffic that web server just can't simply handle. So I go through there. My closing thoughts about this was the following. I do have to admit that I like the concept of cyber self-defense, but in my opinion, it is just not feasible to do. There are just too few professionals in this field, too many insecure devices by default, and too much at risk if individuals or companies started hacking back the attackers. And so this was kind of my thinking about this, where even if we decided to start hacking back at these attackers, what's going to happen is we're going to target systems that they compromised, that they don't own, which means essentially we're going to be targeting God knows who, right? We could be targeting civilians, we could be targeting governments, we could be targeting all types of actors we just don't want to target, right? Everyone but the attacker. And so why do I bring this up in terms of crypto? Well, crypto is a very new emerging technology, right? It's built on the blockchain, it's decentralized by nature, and there's a lot of projects, so many projects being developed, right? And oftentimes cybersecurity it's important, people think about it, but they don't actually understand the implications of actually being hacked. So I want you to be aware of this. I want you to be aware of what is actually happening with the products and services that we use. So for example, what happens if a blockchain itself gets hacked? We don't know the consequences of that just yet. We understand it's decentralized in nature. We understand that There's a cyber attack called the 51% attack, where if you control the majority of the network, essentially 51% of the network, you can do whatever you want with it, right? The feasibility of that in practice is actually quite almost impossible, especially when it comes to Bitcoin and Ethereum and the massive blockchains, right? But we got to start understanding what other attack vectors are there. Oftentimes, we'll be looking at phishing. Like phishing is what, almost 85-90% of all cyber attacks start with a phishing attack, right? And so we go from there and we do our due diligence. We do the best practices approach that I recommend on this channel. But at a certain point, you have to go more in depth. How do you actually prevent someone who's targeting you specifically, searching you specifically, looking at your IP address, looking at the devices that you specifically own and nobody else? And this is where it gets tricky, because I don't want to fearmonger. I don't want to be alertist or alarmist when it comes to cybersecurity and talking about cyber warfare here, right? But you got to be careful, especially when we're high profile targets. Now, when you actually make it in crypto and you have millions of dollars in crypto, if you don't already, the issue then becomes, how do you actually protect yourself against these attackers that want your crypto, right? And actually, just briefly, I want to show, let's see if I can bring this up here. Yeah, here it is. Let me share my screen here. So DeFi Llama. So if we go scroll down here and we go to hacks on the left-hand side, we can see all of the hacks that have actually happened on the blockchains, and we can see the most recent ones. Now, this is not completely 100% up to date, but every once in a while, they'll post the most recent hacks. So for example, we have Stars Arena, and we have a re-entrancy technique. And so they lost $2.6 million. We see HTX, Mixin, the balancer. So that was back in September. Front end attack lost $250,000 there. If we scroll down, we have bigger cyber attacks such as stake.com. So the private key was compromised for their infrastructure there. And so this is a very valuable tool set just to go through, especially on DeFi Llama. You can see there's so many different statistics we can look at, but as you can see, just scrolling down, so many attacks, right? We only hear maybe 5 to 10% of these, but these happen all the time, right? And so we want to make sure that we are not the ones caught up in these hacks. So anyways, that is it for today. And I hope you learned something valuable, and I hope this was useful to you. And as always, I will see you in the next one. And take care. Bye.